Good morning, guys. Welcome back to the property. It is a absolutely glorious day out here. It's got to be 40, 50 degrees out in the sun. And there's no better way of capitalizing on days like this than to get out of the house. So what do we got going on today? One of the most basic things that Ashley and I both agreed on when we first moved in is that we wanted to kind of have the property working for us. Now, we're not going to open it up for like Airbnbs or anything like that, much smaller scale. What we want to do is kind of live off the land a little bit. We're calling it a homestead or a farmstead or whatever you want to call it. And in order to do that, we have to, we wanted to start growing stuff on the property. But we moved in the first week of November and there wasn't a whole lot of things going on there. Tack in the holidays. We couldn't really put a lot of effort into that right away. But one of the things that we could do is almost from the time that we moved in, we started a pretty comprehensive composting regimen. If you guys noticed in the other video when I was fixing the snowplow, you could see the composter that we bought and put in right over there. We bought one of those Dalek shaped composters from Amazon. Figured City Slickers moving out here, what would be one of the easier ways of doing this? We started collecting all the scraps from the kitchen, from cooking, from the kids. We have 2 small kids, so half peanut butter and jellies are like a currency in our house. We just have tons of them. The idea of composting really appeals to me on very many levels. First off, I'm a big recycler. I recycle and try to reuse as much to sometimes to Ashley's chagrin. Why are you keeping all this crap? Well, one day we might need it. Recycle, reuse, repurpose, etc. Secondly, if you know me from my other channel, if it's free, it's for me. So we are taking things that would normally be trash and turning them into something actually quite usable. All of these things appeal to me. So I figured today I'll show you how we're composting. And like the title says, we're gonna eat our Amazon boxes. I'm by no means a dirtologist, but I can kind of tell that the soil around here is a little on the clay side. A lot of areas, even with direct sunlight here, the grass is even having trouble to grow. So while cosmetically, if I was to want to grow like real grass, I knew that I was going to have to till and throw some topsoil down. But more importantly, the point that we wanted to get to was living off the land. So instead of buying compost and good nutrient-rich soil, I figured, well, we got quite a few months before growing season started when we moved in. Let's start composting. So like I mentioned, we started a relatively simple regimen. All things food scrap type things are going to be the greens that you need for compost. We keep a couple of these coffee containers on the counter. We fill them up as we need them. We dump them in and then we top it off with browns. If you guys know composting or don't know composting, there's a certain ratio that you have to accomplish to get an effective compost going. Every time I fill up one of these, which is approximately a gallon, I throw approximately 3 gallons of brown on top of it. When we first moved in, as we were generating these, I was just using leaves. Leaves are tremendous. They're free, and boy are they abundant here. When you're sitting on all this property with all these trees, leaves are not a problem. But as we moved in and we saw that we were generating both moving boxes, Amazon boxes to try to fill up the house, we had the holidays in there, Christmas presents, everything is delivered Amazon these days. Even in the reselling business, there was far more cardboard boxes that we can actually reuse, and we had to do something with them. A lot of the videos that you watch and a lot of the reading that you do warn you not to put meat in your composting because it'll attract critters. Understandable. It's kind of some advice that I'd like to heed. The last thing that I want to do is wake up in the morning and find a bear out here. Thank you, but no thank you. So I didn't lock it at first, and I was just dumping my stuff in, and sure enough, there would be mornings when I would come out here, the lids would be flopped open and there would be stuff all over. Now, we weren't putting any meats in there, but just the fruits and the sweetness and all the other things that we have going on here were attracting critters. So I've got a simple little carabiner, haven't had a problem since. Ah, yes, hello flies. Flies are a good thing. We want to see the flies. They're bringing in microorganisms. So I spread out, dump my compost in. Now this week with the weather that blew through, we were all kind of home. So we actually generated 4 of these containers this week, which is fine. It just means we gotta shred more Amazon boxes. Again, which is fine because we have plenty of them. Eggshells, lemons, banana peels, moldy bread, old macaroni, anything we have, any junk that we generated that isn't really meats or cheeses or really fatty things are ending up in here. So like I said, for every one of those, we gotta add approximately 3 gallons of browns on top of it. Shouldn't be an issue, and let me show you my secret weapon, the real linchpin to this system working. This is my HSM Securio B24. This is not a regular paper shredder. This is not something that you could walk into Office Max and have it be produced by Fellows or something like that. This started its life off in some government agency performing high security shreds for top secret things. Some government agency out there paid well over $700 for this thing, and it probably served its life pretty well. I did buy it with the sole intent of shredding all of our stuff for the composter. And we've been doing it for a couple of months now, and everything that I put into the shredder goes through. Any untreated paper, I send it through. Now stuff like this that's coated, even though they say that they use food grade and totally acceptable inks on them, I don't think I'm ready to try to compost this yet. Maybe if I get a little bit more experience and I say, all right, let's try it. I think the only thing at this point I'm really feeling comfortable with is things like Chewy boxes, Walmart boxes that have that coating on them. I did do a little bit of research, and those say that those are definitely soy-based and they are safe to compost. Chewy going a step further and saying, we know that pets like to eat and hang out in cardboard boxes, so we specifically use an ink that's safe to eat, and by facto, safe to compost. So shout out to Chewy for going that extra mile. Now the only breaking down that I have to do of these boxes is it's the 8.5 width of a regular rule out of a regular sheet of paper. So if it's wider than that, I got to get it down to that width. But no matter what it is, it'll take it. Let's see. All right, so let's see how we're doing. Oh, look at this. We're almost full in just junk mail alone. So in the 1-to-3 ratio that I'm looking for with one coffee container to one of these, it's actually not as hard as you think it is. It would be to fill this up and keep that ratio alive. Now you see, with just the junk mail and a couple of boxes, we're already at 6 of the 12 gallons of brown that we need. Really fantastic. Something else that we noticed, being that even though this is the first time that we're filming it, we have been doing this since we moved in. And this does work. The pile is plenty warm underneath there. Now that being said, even though it's an unseasonably 50-degree day today, I'm not actually going to stir this up. Usually about once a week I'll stir it up to keep things moving. But we're about to head into a really long cold snap where it's going to be below 20 or so for the next couple of days. So I'm going to actually leave this unmolested on the top so it kind of insulates the pile. Like I said, there's some warmth to it. Some mornings I'll come out and I'll see it steaming. So this process does work, but I'm not going to mess with it just to keep everything happy inside. And I'm going to throw these browns on top of it just to keep the pile insulated, even though the sides are vented. I am going to throw some water in it though. All right, we're a little short on this one. Not the end of the world. We're not exactly splitting the atom here. If I'm a little tiny bit off on my ratios, it's not the end of the world. You have to remember that I'm doing these as like rule of thumbs. These buckets could be more than the 3 gallons that I'm estimating. I don't know. It's not that big of a deal. We're making dirt. I mean, what's the worst thing that happens if my ratios are bad? Like, am I gonna die? Are my plants not gonna grow? I don't know. I'm sure we'll be okay though. So that's number 4, 1-to-1. 1 gallon of the greens to 3 gallons estimated of the browns. I think that's where we're gonna end today. In your time, it's a handful of minutes, but because of filming and all that stuff and phone calls and airplanes, it has been about 3 hours of shredding boxes. It doesn't take that long in real life. YouTube, filming. If you're interested in seeing what we end up doing with all this compost, make sure you're subscribed and you hit the bell so you can follow along with our adventures, and when springtime comes, you can see what we do with the compost. Sometime in the near future, we bought a bunch of grow lights. We're gonna start some seeds downstairs and then eventually transplant them. That's not a pun, that's the actual word. We're gonna transplant them outside and then use this compost to help grow our first batch of vegetables. Will we fail? Who knows? But make sure you stay tuned. So again, hit the like button if you like this sort of content, hit the subscribe button with the bell so you can follow along, and I thank you very much for watching, guys.